Okay, this is Jurima Wellness Consultancy. As, as you can remember, my last video, I talked about dementia, which is a disease which is having, which is causing a lot of havoc in our society. So I saw some of my viewers requesting me if I can give a case of an affected person of dementia, and that's why today I have come to give a case of one of our patients of dementia. Let's go, let's share and work together. Okay. This is a case of Sionda Jean. Mr. Piv, why don't you follow me? And I will show you our nursing home facility, said the social worker. You know, I'm still not so sure about putting Jean in here. Actually, I'm really sick about it. This June, you'll be married 55 years. You know, a lot of people can say that these days, said Mr. Pioff. Jean and I promised each other that if ever the other ones would ever get so bad as to need a nursing home, well, we just wouldn't do it. We do everything in our power to maintain our home life together. But things are just so terrible right now. I had a very nice woman who took wonderful care of my wife 6 days a week. She cooked meals, bathed Jean, and provided 24 hours care. But then one of our own relatives got sick and she had to leave us. I found myself just unable to care for Jean by myself. I couldn't lift or bathe her, but the most depressing part was changing her diapers. I mean, how much can someone have to deal with? It became impossible to see the one person I love most in this world reduced to being a baby. It's just too much, just too much. She is not the Jean I knew. She doesn't recognize me, our children, grandchildren, or great-grandchild. The social worker found a quiet corner in the home's former pillar, away from the activity of the residents and staff. She invited Mr. Fourth to sit down and asked him to talk about what precipitated his decision to visit the nursing home. Mr. Fourth related, we had it pretty good for many years. Sure, we had rough times, but mostly times were good for us. We were two young kings when we married in 1929. Neither one of us finished high school, but not many people did in those days. I left school, got a job at a model T-Ford in that order. Although Jean was the only girl in her family and the third of 4 children, she was a mother to her brothers. Their parents died during the swine flu epidemic in 1918, and Jean was still a baby herself. But she was determined that she and her brothers wouldn't be separated, and they were. And they weren't. Once she made up her mind, everybody better watch out. We have married almost 56 years, and for the most part, it has been a good marriage. We had 2 wonderful children, and they both live nearby. Our daughter is divorced, but she is doing very well. She has 3 grown children of her own, and recently earned a master's degree in teaching. On top of that, she's a world-class musician. We have always been proud of her accomplishments. Our son is a physician who married his high school sweetheart. At first, we didn't approve their relationship, but as time went on, we could see they really were meant they really were meant for each other. They have 3 children and are also doing very well. Our daughters-in-law has been very helpful, bringing food and new sofa, but how much can we expect her to take care of us? Our grandchildren are wonderful, but they have their own lives to live. I forgot to mention to you that Jeans earned a broker's real estate license after our children were grown and out of their home. I wasn't, I wasn't too thrilled with her working outside of the home. You know, in those days, women usually were housemakers, but she was stubborn about this. She told me that she was tired of cleaning the house and she only wanted to sell real estate for pin money. She did a pretty good job. True. In a few years, Jean had a thriving business and several people working for her. She'd buy fixer-upper houses, and after the necessary repairs, she'd sell them for a nice tidy profits. She put whatever commissions she earned back into buying other houses. I tell you, Jean really had a nose for business and she made a good deal of money. We are lucky that we don't have any financial worries, but that's because of Jean's business sense. It sure wasn't because of what I earned in my seat cover business. She was the brains in our family, and that's why her being this way is so hard for me. These are supposed to be the golden years in our lives. We used to have lots of friends, but now no one wants to go out with us. I guess I really don't blame them. Allowed our condo development, I now was other couples holding hands, playing golf for locals, and going out to dinner, whereas Jean is reduced to wearing diapers, not recognizing me, and blabbing nonsense. How do you go from all we had to all of this? The social worker asked what kinds of things he began to recognize in Jeans that told him something was happening to her that was different from her usual behavior. Mr. Fourth responded, I guess I knew things weren't going right when Jean forgot where she left her purse or when she left the store phone. 5 or 6 years ago, I didn't think too much of it, but then, as time went on, it got worse. Several times she almost burned the house down when she left food cooking on the stove and then walked away. After that, I wouldn't let her cook anymore. But the problem didn't end there. She'd forget who she was talking to on the telephone, or else didn't remember how to get home when she went out to errands. 2 times the police picked her up for driving erratically, and I had to promise them I won't let her drive anymore. Sometimes I think I have been at fault for trying to let her continue to be normal. I'd give her the car keys and home for the best. I just didn't want to face the truth that she was changing. She wasn't the Jean I knew, but as of the persons I loved. You can't imagine how painful this has been for me. I have lost my best friend. When asked to describe Jean's behavior, he related, sometimes she's as placid as a lamb. At other times, she gets so agitated that she physically lashes out at others trying to help bathe or care for her. Several times, she accused me of stealing her money. A few times, she got so riled up that I gave her a small change purse filled with dollar bills. It seems that being able to touch or feel the money calmed her down. If she happened to tell me I took her money, I saw her the change purse and she becomes quiet again. Mr. Puff's eyes again filled with tears. He took his glasses off and began to clean them with a well-worn handkerchief before continuing. We used to go to the all of the spring training baseball games. We knew all the players, especially the rookies. We do all the typical things, eat hot dogs, drink soda pop, and sing all those terrible old songs like take me out to the ball game. Jeans were lovely going to those games. Sometimes we'd take a glove with us, to try to cast off flies. One time we actually caught a ball and we gave it to our youngest grandson Kenny. Mr. Pop paused and said to the second worker, I seem to be talking your ears off. I guess I have needed someone to talk to. Am I talking up 2 months of your time? Do you have someone else you need to see? The social worker reassured Mr. Puff that she really wanted to hear about what had been happening to him, and Jean added, I have all the time in the world. He continued, Jean keeps me up at night. Several times he started to open the front door and wander away. I used to let her dress herself, but she would put her clothes on backwards, or sometimes she just sat naked until I dressed her. Until recently, she was able to walk around our condo, but now she has fallen several times. 3 months ago, she fractured her left arm, and let me tell you, it was no picnic taking care of her with the full arm cast. More times than not, I use a wheelchair to get her around because she is so unsteady on her feet. It just seems easier than letting her walk. I got one of those gizmos that fits on the back of my car, so it makes using a wheelchair easier, but nothing is really easy. Mr. Puff sat quietly, trying to hold back his tears. He appeared visibly upset, and the social worker assured him that what he was experiencing was very normal. He replied, that's what everyone says. What I'm feeling is very normal, but doesn't help when I have to break my promise and put Jean in a nursing home because I'm too weak to take care of her. I used to think of myself as a fairly capable and strong man, but not anymore. He looked defeated. Oh my God. I guess that's the real problem of getting old. You begin to become vulnerable to health problems, financial fluctuations, and limits in what you once handled with complete ease. I haven't had a good night's sleep in months. Jean is really restless, especially at night, and she keeps me up the night. That's when I knew I had to hire someone to help me to take care of her. Now I'm in a real bite because I don't want to put Jean in a nursing home, but I don't seem to have much choice these days. Thankfully, money is not an issue for us. I feel like I have betrayed her somehow, but if I don't get some relief, this will kill me. I used to think that getting old with her, one you love, was going to be an exciting and wonderful experience. We always planned to have lots of time to travel, play cards, hold hands, and spend quality times together. Well, it turned out to be just the opposite. Getting old is really just an awful experience, especially if it's spent without your best friend. Can you assess that one? Assessment summary. To accurately assess element Alzheimer's type, the practitioner must first rule out potential medical and neurological explanation. In the natural course of events, the nursing home social worker is generally among the last professionals to be consulted. Although the fignet refers to Jean's fall and subsequent broken arm, not mentioned were her complete medical and neurological evaluation to rule out other general medical problems. There are several ways to code dementia of the Alzheimer's type, depending on the age of onset and the various accompanying signs and symptoms. For example, uncomplicated with delusions, with depressed mood, and with delirium. It is important to differentiate between early onset and late onset. Other types of dementia include vascular dementia. This has also been termed multi-infarct dementia because it is presumed to be caused a series of stroke. The differential diagnosis for vascular dementia is that person generally become worse through a series of small debilitating steps, whereas those with Alzheimer's dementia experience a more gradual deterioration of functions. Parkinson's disease is a slow and progressive neurological condition characterized by tremors, rigidity, involuntary and rhythmic movement of extremities, motor restlessness, and postural instability. Peak disease usually occur between age 45 and 50. Impairment are in memory, concentration, abstract thinking, and speech, along with disorientation and apathy. It is considered a degenerative disease, particularly of the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is a rare illness and believed to be caused by a newly discovered agent known as prion. Individuals lose their mental alertness, which is why it is often confused with the Alzheimer's disease, experience memory loss, and are disoriented. A distinctive features of this disease is myoclonus, a sock-like contractions of muscles. Myoclonus is not unique to Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, but when it is present, it can serve as an indicator of what is happening to individuals. Huntington disease is inherited through a single dormant gene. It is progressive and degenerative disease that includes difficulties in cognitions, emotion, and movement. Symptoms generally begin between 30 and 50 years of age, and death usually occurs within 10 to 20 years of its onset. The individuals exhibit involuntary tremors and twisting of the head, torso, and the extremities, lashing gait, and explosive speech. It is usually associated with excessive levels of dopamine, deficient GABA, and atrophy in the caudate nucleus and frontal temporal lobes of the brain. Usually it is not difficult to make an assessment of dementia, at least as an offer of a low sense, except in the very early stages, because effects of deliriums present with features similar to dementia. Dementia cannot be assessed until after the delirium clears. In addition, agnosia, aphasias, and apraxias are much more common in Alzheimer's dementias than in deliriums. Okay, Mrs. Jean for DSM, what axial designation would be? Axis 1, 209.0, Alzheimer's dementia, late onset and complicated. Axis 2, P71.09, no diagnosis. Axis 3, 331.0, Alzheimer's disease. 733.10, fractured left arm. Axis 4, none. Axis 5, GAF, this is deferred. In looking genes past and present history, the practitioner can gain a greater insight into our current functioning. Specific attention focuses on understanding biological, psychological, including cognitive, and socio-system variables. The competency-based assessment knows that Jean has a very strong support system in her husband, Harley, and in both of her children who live nearby. Mr. Poff is currently in a crisis himself. However, he is very resilient in that he is able to talk openly with a social worker about his feelings and seeks outside assistance, while Mrs. Poff is the identified client. In actually, it is Mr. Poff who becomes the focus of the assessment. Several